Yes, Oliver Frljić, you, just as me, has worked many times, or quite a few times with Dostoevsky, different, you've done both Brother Karamazov and also, yes, Crime and Punishment now.
And Poor Folks.
Oh, yeah, Poor Folks, yes. What is it that you think interests you working, making theater of Dostoevsky?
I find him interesting on so many levels. I think we could spend like 2 or 3 hours just talking about all the layers of his writings that I try to explore. But what is the most interesting for me is that he belongs nominally to realism as a historical stylistic formation, but I think he's much more than this. He was born in that time, but the complexity of his narrative, complexity of his characters, all those contradictions which are inherent in his writing, that's what interests me. And I think he's very contemporary. That's why I'm trying to read, for example, this novel Crime and Punishment. I read during my gymnasium time for the first time, and then I don't know how many times again. And it raises so many questions, but the most interesting, the central one, is the question of penal system, and basically if penal system is able, beside this physical punishment that is imposed to criminals, to create a kind of a moral regeneration of those people. And also it's very good for analyzing our contemporary society and its own penal system. So that's one of the things that I'm very much attracted to in this novel.
Yeah, no, I mean, I worked, as you maybe know, also I did The Idiot here for Dramaten, this big stage here. I also did, maybe it was 50 years ago now, a huge production of Crime and Punishment at Backa Theatre, my former theatre. And as you said, I could see this played mainly for young people of Gothenburg there, and the question it rises around crime, punishment, and forgiveness. Is it possible to forgive everything? And also, what is the who has the right to kill another human being? All these kinds of ethical discussions, of course, is one thing. But as you said, also the way he works with so many different layers of the society. There is so many people from different social backgrounds, with different. As I used to have my thought when I worked with Dramaten, this polyphonic way of telling, working with so many different views on gods, on the ideology, from different social layers, from different class backgrounds. It really tries to work in whole images, or so to say, to really take a big picture of the whole society, the whole. And I find it very inspiring, and that there are so many people all the time. Of course, like both in The Idiot and also Crime and Punishment, there is one character. Of course, you could say it's like the main character, but there are so many other characters that also are like having totally other views on. So I think this polyphony is what really interests me. I don't think you.
Yes, I think that's very important for Dostoevsky, and somebody compared his writing with cubistic painting that will come after, but to try to see the same object from as much as possible angles. And this question of crime, which is a central, and punishment in the novel Crime and Punishment, is related also to this question: are we socially conditioned to do a certain crime? And if we are, how then we can take the responsibility, bear the responsibility for this? And that's also one of the central episodes where Razumixin, Porfiri, and Raskolnikov discuss exactly this question. Or is there something in a human nature which comes to those essentialistic theories that leads us towards a crime? The question is super interesting, and also what you said already, a question of value of human life. Can we establish a certain kind of economy where we trade one human life for saving 200,000 others? Yeah, exactly. So is this ethically? But I find it very interesting, especially today, where we like deal with again with the same question, like the value of one human life and its potential exchangeability for other human lives.
And aesthetically, could you tell me anything about how you wanted to work in this specific performance, with the aesthetics and the way to do it, make it a performance?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You mentioned already in the last season I did 4 Dostoevsky, so 2 times Brothers Karamazov, and 2-time Crime and Punishment. Poor Folks I did before, and each one of those performances is quite different. I was asked recently, like, how is it to do in such a short period of time same title 2 times, or I would love to do it 3 or 4 times. For me it's great. It's a kind of great luxury because I can explore different aspects and angles of the story, of the characters, of general aesthetics that we apply. And here it's very interesting because this Igor Pauška, my set designer, and me, we came with this concept of a radical mental deterioration of the main character. So what we see on the stage is not some kind of objective reality, but more his perception of this reality, and this defines the way also how we worked with the actors and with the light, with the sound, and it was a great experience. I think there is something immersive when we are the best performance sucks in the audience. It's not something that creates this kind of distance, but you are inside. You are becoming a part of this a mental collapse of the main character, and that's what I found interesting. But this does not exclude all those social questions which are super relevant. They are just asked in another environment, I would say. So yeah. But how do you see like this novel today in our society?
The specific novel,
because this is also I saw Northern Crimes, and I see now that this is your permanent interest, like penal system, like crime, the origin of the crime in society.
Yeah, of course. No, but I mean, it's like one thing, of course, is, as you also said, about what's actually driving a human being to what are the explanations, models for a person who is like committing a crime, which of course has changed a lot in the discourse during the different decades. I mean, in the 70s in Sweden, everything was connected to social background because it was connected to that, and then it comes over to a more discussion about it's like psychopath, it's biologism, it's like this. And now I want to say, but when the discussion is always there, and I think that's one thing that's also always interesting. What actually drives a human being, and what's kind of what leads you into one pattern in life to another pattern, because. And I think also, of course, the concept of forgiveness, what is possible to forgive, is always interesting. Is there unforgivable other people that have committed things that are unforgivable, or is the forgiveness always a possibility? I think that discussion is always provoking to really go deep into, and also very like mind. It's an interesting discussing all the time. Of course, we cannot avoid the question that now, after the Russian aggression of Ukraine, the war against Ukraine, has been a lot of discussion regarding Russian culture and explicitly also about Dostoevsky. Has your like thoughts of regarding Dostoevsky in general changed during this year?
No.
After the war broke out?
No, unfortunately, I cannot simplify the things. A certain text and gains its meaning in a certain context. So there is nothing essential in Dostoevsky that is good or bad. It gains a certain meanings and certain ethical standpoints in different contexts. And I mean, I should not remind myself, but some people should be reminded that Dostoevsky was also a prisoner in Siberia because he was reading books that were forbidden, and he was questioning already in his youth existing political system of that time in Russia. And I generally think that culture cannot be cancelled. I mean, it can be, but then it has devastating consequences. It's not so easy to cancel the whole culture. I'm generally against any kind of generalizations in the theater and in the life in general. So my relationship didn't change, but of course we saw all those cancellation in some countries, or cries for cancellation of whole
Russian culture in general.
Yes,
I mean, yeah,
yes.
okay.
But I can also refer to this war that we had in Yugoslavia in 1990, from 1991 on, and in Croatia, Serbian culture was cancelled. So basically, me as an individual, I was not allowed to use Serbian words or read Serbian authors or read even the things which were written in Cyrillic letters. And this basically did not change since 1991 till today. It was never officially, but you know, they threw out all Serbian books from libraries. They burned them down or they destroyed them, etc., etc. And I wouldn't say that this is a cultural and a cultural act. It is like, it speaks also very much about the one who performed this violation of a certain culture or cancellation of a certain culture. So I think the question is very interesting and complex, but I have very clear standpoint regarding this. And also we did not cancel different other cultures. We had some recent wars and some not so recent wars, and if we would follow this logic of cancellation of culture, I think that a lot of cultures would be cancelled at this point.
Yes, and I mean, it's also that you can always take any artist as hostage and use it for like, use it for your own agenda and say that this specific artist is actually telling this and that about this specific fight or this specific conflict. So I think in that sense, it's also very you can manipulate any like.
And the question is how we want to read a certain author. As you said, we can always isolate a certain features of his work or certain layers of his work and ignore but as I said, I think it's all up to context, and context creates meaning. Of course, this is not the first or last time that there are attempts for certain authors to be instrumentalized. It's happening all the time, and I think art should try to show that authors and artworks are, we should de-instrumentalize them, if I may say so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.